On today's episode of Nerd Bytes, we are talking about streaming export. The streaming export is a service that the Unified Data Streams team offers that allows users to export data as it is ingested by New Relic to an external destination source like AWS Kinesis Firehose. Unlike the historical export, which only allows the user to retrieve data from the past period of time, streaming export allows users to export live streaming data. As we are launching streaming export on NerdGraph to the public users who have entitlements on their accounts, we are including the following APIs for users to use. Now let's take a quick look at each one of them. Now let's take a look at the creation API. In order to create a streaming export rule, there are certain fields that the user has to enter. The user needs to enter a valid New Relic account ID, a valid NERCL query, AWS account ID, AWS Firehose delivery stream name, AWS region, AWS IAM role that has the permission for user to export data into the Firehose. Once user fill in all those information, you can click on Execute Query button. The user will get a response back immediately. The status initially showing as creation in progress. At this point, the rule is being created, then the process may take up to 6 minutes to complete. Please check again later. In order to check if the rule has been created successfully, the user can use the streaming export rule ID to track. Now let's take a look at the View a Rule API. To view a rule, there are only two required fields the user needs to enter. The user needs to know the valid New Relic account ID, which was filled in earlier in the creation API, and the rule ID the user is checking. So in this case, we know the rule ID is 2631. Let's click on Execute Query button. Now we'll get a response back. As you can see, the status showing enabled. That means the rule has been created successfully and is ready to export data into the user's AWS account. Now let's take a look at the next API, Update the Rule. The Update Rule API is very similar to the Creation API. The required information is very similar. The user needs to know the NERCL query, AWS information. The only difference here is the user needs to know the rule ID is trying to update instead of the New Relic account ID. So let's using overrule as an example here. So for example, we want to update the rule name and the description. And let's click on Execute the Rule button. And the response also come back immediately. And also we have the same message here, saying the rule is being updated and may take up to 6 minutes to complete. Please check again later. Let's take a look at the status of the update. So let's go back here. Click on View this rule. As you can see that the name has been updated, description has been updated. So we know the update API complete successfully. Now let's take a look at that next API. Disable Rule API. Once the rule is enabled, it's streaming data into the user's account. If the user wants to pause the streaming process, he can use the Disable Rule API. The only required field here is the rule ID the user that wants to disable. In our case, it's 2631. Once user click on the Execute Query button, will immediately show the status has changed to disabled. And that means the rule has been paused to streaming data into the user's account. Now let's take a look at the Enable API. So if the user decided to re-enable that rule, you can use the Enable API. Just enter the rule ID, click on Execute Query button, and the status will show you it's enabled. That means the rule has been re-enabled and the data is streaming into the user's account again. Take a look at the next API, delete a rule. If the rule is no longer needed, the user can delete the rule. Please note, if the user decided to delete a rule, use this API, the rule cannot be recovered after the completion. For testing purpose, we're using the rule 2631 that we created earlier. Click on Execute Query button. You'll get a message back immediately. Status changed to deleted. Message saying the rule has been deleted. At this point, the rule is gone and cannot be recovered. There's one more API I want to show. View a list of rules. To view a list of rules under the same new Relic count, only required information to enter is the new Relic count ID. So once you have the information entered, click on Execute Query button. All of the streaming export rules created under this count will be shown here. Thanks for watching, and hopefully you learned how to export your live stream data with streaming export.